This episode is a little bit late getting out. We actually skipped a week so that a few of us could go to a concert on one of our usual recording nights. So this makes this a couple weeks late. In this episode, Mike, Rene, Lana and I spent some time talking about the current rape and sexual assault allegations in the news, and a bit about pickup culture before we address what kind of nonsense we used to believe ourselves and what we're still credulous about. This is episode 22, recorded on November 15th, 2014.
We can say definitively that religions are all bullshit.
Amen, brother.
Well, you know me, I don't buy into BS.
I get paid to sign.
I don't fit into human nature.
Do not marry here.
What the hell was my point?
Brainstorm.
I was never into Moxie Frubus, and I was never that into Jean Gomeshi.
I liked his show,
so
but
it didn't break my heart when I heard that he was a douchebag.
Well, when it first started coming out, at first I thought, like I told Mike earlier, where it's like, at first I thought, maybe it is a case of he claims he was into BDSM or whatever,
and he's got an attack of the drama queens or something.
And I'm thinking it's possible that he's like, so you into BDSM, and they're like, oh, maybe he'll slap my ass, pull my hair, and it'll be all cool, and then things got real. And turns out he's just a shithead.
Yeah.
More things are surfacing, and he's just an asshat.
I was listening
that's not stuff you can just surprise on people.
No, that's not. No.
I see how it goes.
That's not a one-night stand, oh, by the way, I like to choke people thing.
Well, that's why at first, when it was first coming out, I thought it was, maybe he said, oh, you want to do this? And they thought it was one thing, and it got too real for them.
A misunderstanding.
But as it turns out, it's more of he's just a douche.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I guess he took women's studies, but the accusations are coming out, and who knows if it's true or not. He's going to fight it, but it sounds like he took women's studies to try to pick up chicks.
Yeah.
Like
that's a fairly cynical maneuver.
Yeah.
I pretty much gotta plead ignorance on this whole thing because I have no idea. Like, I never knew who he was before this, so I thought everybody was posting these things, and I'm like reading them, and it's interesting. It's an interesting subject. It's a public figure who's being accused of this, and he's got his perspective, and the victims have their perspective, and I'm going, oh, okay. Who the fuck is he? How is he important? I don't know.
I've seen his. I kind of liked Q, and I thought he was a good interviewer. A little bit of a smug, dick, but it's kind of.
But having an overgrown ego is not limited to one media personality.
No.
Being a narcissist and having an overblown ego is fairly standard.
Yeah.
So you can't just judge somebody on that basis.
No,
I have to live with mine every day of my life.
Then again, not everybody turns into whatever the hell Gian Gameshi turned into.
Yeah.
Somebody
sexual assault.
Someone who didn't respect women's, personal boundaries or anything, that just thought, the world was his playground, it seems like. And not very nice.
Yeah, you just turned out to be an asshat.
And well, it was really interesting how it played out because like he's basically a left-wing media personality kind of a guy. And so the left wing is used to being, you know, very rah for, you know, women's rights and social justice. And then one of their people that's supposed to be on their side ends up being basically a predator. And they're like, I don't know what to say about this.
Well, he's
how
been
many
on
more
record.
of them are predators?
Yeah, he's been on record as being supposed feminist, but turns out maybe not so much. But
he was just a very opportunistic and cynical fellow that was there to get laid.
yeah, that pretty much sums it up, really.
Yeah.
You know, hi, I'm a big media star, and what are you going to do about it? Kind of thing. It seems to be, but you know, I guess I'll have to wait and see
what the courts bring out.
Yeah, because I guess at first it was all they were just going to the media, which to me was a little fuzzy. But
wow, yeah. Well, first came his preemptive fucking thing.
Because there was one woman went to the Toronto Star.
Okay.
And then I guess that was brewing, and then that's when CBC first said they were letting him go for personal reasons, and then within days they went, no, he's done. And then that's when
he did his. Yeah.
I saw an article. It said that the thing that made them decide he was done was he came in and showed them a video where he was trying to prove that, see, he'd broken a woman's rib and bruised her badly, but in some kind of consensual activity. And he was showing a video of this as proof that, you know, this can be happening consensually, which ended up going completely against him because they were like, oh, obviously you like hurting women.
Consensual.
Well, even if it was, it's actually not legal to physically harm other people, even if it's consensual sex stuff. Like to actually be breaking bones and shit, it's actually not legal.
Yeah. Well, I know. Yeah, I mean, that whole realm gets into really weird shit, but that's just it. Is maybe in his mind, it's, you know, she said yes. Yeah.
So BDSM, eh?
Yeah. And I imagine the BDSM people are pretty annoyed that, you know, he's become, you know, he's trying to put that umbrella over the type of activities that he was up to when, from what I understand of it, it's very structured and it's very, you know, you talk about what you're going to do well ahead of time, I think. And
yeah, I can't remember what I was listening to. Yeah, shit. I was listening to some podcast and they were discussing this Gian Gameshi and BDSM, and they said, you don't spring that on somebody. No. Like, that's not well, we've seen each other twice and now I'm talking to you about it. Like, that's, you know this person well. You've been together
There's a level of trust.
Yeah, you trust each other. You've been involved together for a while before you even bring this shit up.
There's a checklist, like first date, you know.
Yeah, that's right.
Coffee and, you know, what, you know, what's your favorite book? By third date, you know.
That's terribly disingenuous, though. It's like, look, I can't be myself because I want you to like me.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to play someone else for a while. Yeah. And yeah, as I get behavioral cues from you, you know, you seem more accepting of me, then I'll actually let you know a bit more about myself.
Isn't
and
that
then over time, over months of two people doing this to each other, they end up together, and whether they're actually happy together is a matter of pure fucking chance. Because they don't actually confide in each other until they're already together. It's bullshit. That's a bullshit way of doing things.
It should be right at the
time. We can't do it any other way.
Isn't that called 90% of relationships?
That's all.
Yeah, that's right.
That's absolutely every relationship. It's completely random whether or not they're going to be happy because they didn't know each other when they decided to get together.
With the old joke about the honeymoon's over when...
And they're pretending to be different people when they start.
Well,
yeah.
And what's all these whips and chains and leather? Halloween costume.
This doesn't look like your typical Halloween setup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awkward silence fills the room.
It's a kind of an awkward subject. I don't know.
Yeah.
Kind of a weird subject, the whole
It is.
BDSM thing.
Well, and one of the things that was good that came out of it, not to say that, what happened was good, but, basically it prompted women to start telling their own stories to try to explain why women are reluctant to go public with stories of sexual harassment and rape. So there was this big Twitter thing of, I was raped and didn't report it. Hashtag, I think.
Okay.
And so there was loads and loads of them coming out and saying, 20 years ago I was sexually assaulted or raped or blah, blah, blah. But I didn't report it because I knew no one would believe me and it was going to go against me and it was, going to cause me a lot more trouble than any benefit. So I didn't report because, people are saying, well, why didn't they go to the police? Why was nobody ever going to the police about this? Well, it's really, really hard to get a charge to stick when you've gone to someone's house with them or gone somewhere with them and there's no other witnesses to say what happened. And it's all he said, she said,
sure.
And it then becomes really hard. So if you know that it's all going to come down to he said, she said, and somebody is a lot more powerful figure and a lot more wealthy than the other person, then yeah, you're going to be reluctant to report. But if you get enough women that can give crazy details like this, the teddy bear, did you read about that?
Yeah.
That there was this teddy bear that they had to turn around and Mr. Bubbles or something.
Something like Mr. Big Ears or something.
Yeah, Mr. Big Ears. He can't see what's happening, so I have to turn him around. And they all had that. Most of them had this detail. So there was some really creepy elements that ran through a lot of them that they sounded so similar. I think it sounds like there is going to be a criminal case. There's a few of them that have lodged criminal complaints because there isn't a statute of limitations on sexual assault and rape apparently. So he may get charged. But no one of them individually felt like they had
Was
enough
this in
of a
the States
case.
or Canada?
This is in Canada.
This is in Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just like at first it was kind of like, maybe there's, maybe his side, maybe it's one of those cases of there's this story, his story, and the truth is somewhere in the middle. But as more stories come out, might be where there's smoke, there might be fire.
Right.
It sure is smoky.
Well, on those lines, if you yell rape, you're less likely to be helped than if you yell fire.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've said that before, though.
I believe you did.
That's a really strange phenomenon to me. Like, that seems so bizarre.
I'm going to periodically yell fire then throughout this podcast.
Fire! No,
that'll just sound wrong.
Yeah, well, you guys get out of hand, so.
This is possibly true.
For what it's worth, getting men to report sexual assault is even harder.
Yep.
So it's
well.
Last I checked, it was even less likely for men to report sexual assault
because they will just say no, that just doesn't happen.
Whether it's men attacking men or women attacking men.
Yeah,
it's not a manly thing to do to claim to be a victim of sexual violence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and that's not a fair way for society to be.
No, that's the way it is.
Yeah.
Nonetheless.
Yeah, which segues nicely into this story. There was a 15-year-old who was statutorily raped, a young fellow, by a 48-year-old cheerleader.
Yeah, I saw
from
that
the
one.
Ravens. So she's pled guilty to some kind of charges.
48-year-old cheerleader.
She was the oldest.
She was 37 at the time.
When she joined the cheerleading squad.
Yeah, when she joined.
So I think she's probably retired now.
Yeah.
But she had a not so distant past stint as a cheerleader and, probably in good enough shape. she's definitely doing the MILF thing and the Mrs. Robinson thing.
Oh, maybe I'm thinking of a different story. Is she the one who's like the spouse of an owner?
I don't know.
I don't know.
This was very recent.
Yeah, this just popped up last week or a couple weeks.
Yeah, maybe I know.
Anyway, yeah, she was like NFL cheerleader.
Okay.
Yeah.
She might have been, married into one of the teams or something. It sort of sounded like it. But, yeah, and so there's a lot of people saying, well, that doesn't seem... Oh, and she also had given him alcohol at her holiday house, and so...
But that leads into the whole rash of stuff that's been going on down there where the teachers have been...
Yeah, there's been a lot of teachers sleeping with students down in the States.
Which the reaction...
Well, there probably always was.
Yeah.
But it is just recently getting reported. Before it would have just been...
But even the way it's reported, it's different. Like, I mean, if it's a male teacher that was sleeping with one of his students, it'd be, oh, that predatory bastard. Whereas now, when it's the other way around, it's most of it's reported pretty flippantly and jokingly.
But I think a lot of the time it's that way with women too. Like there's judges. There was a judge, I forget if it was a Wyoming judge or something, that basically said that, this, whatever, a 13, 14-year-old had basically seduced this older man and, had a lot of the fault of the thing. And that narrative happens a whole lot with young women too, where they'll blame it on the high schooler.
Well, thing is, it's a little different when it's the guy though, and he gets with his teacher. It's more of a it's going to be a lot more high five. Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the kind of culture that.
Yeah.
That's how it's seen.
That way,
yeah.
Yeah, if you don't think of it that way, there's something wrong with you.
Well, we don't know if that. Yeah, but we don't know if that was really anything like the objective reality of the thing.
Yeah.
And there's a reason that we as grown adults are supposed to keep the hands off the youngins. There's good reasons for that.
Yeah, there's a few. Yeah,
there's some good reasons
for that.
Go find an 18-year-old. There's lots of 18-year-olds that want to vote.
No,
why do you need a 15-year-old?
No, don't.
18-year-olds are still children.
Well, yeah, but if you want a child, at least find a legal one.
I guess so.
See,
but still,
the difference is there, Mike. If you're picking them up for intellectual discussion, no. But if so.
But there's really no difference between an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old in terms of them being able to really think for themselves.
It's a somewhat arbitrary
it's just as easy to seduce one as it is to seduce the other.
Yes, but we've drawn a line that says that 18-year-olds. It's an arbitrary.
This
line.
Just goes to show that there's a huge difference between morality and legality.
Yeah, but like 15, there's a fair bit of difference between 15 and 18.
Yes, there is.
Like they're an 18-year-old is nowhere near mature, but a 15-year-old. They're in the middle of just, the throes of puberty and they're pretty messed up at that age.
So are early 20s. I mean, it would be immoral for me to have sex with a 20-year-old. It just would.
They just don't know how to make good decisions.
They're not ready for me. They're only 20.
And the return of the most conceited man in the world.
Just saying.
They just don't know how to make good decisions yet.
Well, exactly. Your personality, your brain doesn't really start to solidify until your late 20s. When you're 20 years old, there's really no difference between 19 or 18.
Yeah.
I mean, when you're like we are, approaching 40 or whatever, you look at a 20-year-old, there's no difference between a 20-year-old and a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
It's,
really
or an 18-year-old and a 16-year-old.
They're all too young.
You can't have sex with any of that. You can't.
Legally you can, but it's a douchey maneuver.
Yes, it's legal. It's just not moral.
Yeah.
What's the one comedian is like, 21-year-olds are just like babies. Except babies don't have bad ideas yet.
We probably have enough young listeners that this is offending the shit out of all of them.
Well, they're welcome to screw each other. Just, us
Just
old
don't have
people
sex with
should
me.
just generally leave
Just
them alone.
ignore the old people.
Yeah, we're too old for you.
I'm pretty sure that's not an issue for me.
No, I wouldn't think so either.
Bill Cosby.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah.
We were getting around to Bill Cosby.
Yeah. See, Bill Cosby and John Gomeshi, both rather well-loved media figures who seem to have a problem with allegedly, being kind of rapey.
I'm actually more shocked by Bill Cosby because he's
you know,
been a moral, what do you call it?
Paragon? Well, no, that's probably too strong a word.
Yeah.
Kind of a role model.
Yeah, he's been a role model
Yeah.
ever since I was a fucking
Well, yeah,
kid.
Yeah.
The Cosby Show, you have his other,
His beloved Dr. Huxtable,
his
which
book,
is
his Parenthood, and all
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, and
Yep.
and all I can think of is who's it? Eddie Murphy's got a stand-up routine about Bill Cosby because Bill Cosby's been very vocal about cursing and staying clean.
pull up your pants.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, and then curse, you can't curse, but apparently, allegedly, we better emphasize that, allegedly.
Allegedly, it's fine to roofie girls.
Yeah.
Or whatever you seem to be doing that. And he had started this hashtag and had launched, I think, a meme generator of some sort.
Yeah, he wanted his fans to make a meme out of Cosby.
It's kind of a PR move. He wanted all these old Cosby pictures to get turned into memes. So they took them and started doing some very amusing rapey memes. And it's hard to believe you can make good Bill Cosby rape jokes. But there is apparently a wealth of Bill Cosby
Bill Cosby
rape
didn't
jokes.
quite understand what the internet did.
No. Which is one of the lovely things about Twitter, really.
Yeah.
When you ask Reddit or 4chan, make some memes of me. Here's my picture. You're fucking asking for it.
Yeah.
You get what you get.
What you get. Exactly. You get what you deserve.
Yeah, sure. You don't necessarily get what you ask for.
No.
That's for fucking sure.
No. There's been a few people in organizations that have found that out. I think McDonald's was one. I forget.
Well, I think that's both the blessing and the curse of the internet is that where it used to be
it can't be controlled.
Yeah, this kind of stuff would be kind of hushed, kept under the carpet, but this stuff
it bubbles up.
And once it hits traction, boom.
Once it hits boiling point,
yeah,
then everybody knows about it. And so he actually canceled an appearance on Letterman.
Yeah, I just Googled his name, which sounds really dirty in this context, but yeah, it pops.
He Googled him.
Yeah, that just sounds so wrong. But yeah, it popped up. He, canceled an appearance on Letterman
and he was on NPR and they said, well, here's your chance to get ahead of some of these stories. Do you want to say anything about this? Didn't say anything.
Yeah.
So, don't know.
But I mean that could almost segue into another one. I don't know much about it. I just kind of read it. It was like that whole Julian Blank thing.
Oh yeah, where Australia actually wouldn't let him in.
Oh, I want to talk about that one. Yeah. So it's the pickup artist professional guy, right? That one?
Yeah, well, sort of.
Sort
He's
of.
one of, sad thing is, I know about this shit, but to a certain extent, but yeah, he's part of a group called Real Social Dynamics.
Yes. Which sounds innocuous.
Yeah.
Sounds like that's not a bad name.
Basically what they do, and I've got the mystery method at home, because I was working with a couple guys that swore by this book, so I'm like, okay, I'll read it. Most of it is such bullshit. It is such bullshit. But anyway, what they do is they set up seminars at, apparently, according to what I looked into it, $2,000 to $3,000 a person, where they'll set up
for these boot camps.
Boot camps where they teach guys how to pick up women.
Okay.
And I guess the Julian Blanc one is, well, both of the, like I've watched some of the, cause there's a Canadian connection to it because there's one guy in there, I can't think of his real name, something Cook, goes by the pickup artist name of Tyler Durden. And like, I guess he's said some
way to wreck a good name.
Yeah. Well, because when he started it up, Fight Club was huge, right? So that's why he picked that name. But yeah, like they've been on camera saying some fucking just unreal shit.
Yeah. So basically Canada is deciding whether or not to give him a visa to let him come into the country to make money holding these workshops, which we're under no obligation to let somebody come into the country to make money.
I thought they denied him because I know they pulled.
I hadn't heard if they denied him or not.
I know there was a petition.
There was a big petition.
They pulled the dates from their website, so I don't know if they're doing the dates anymore because there was enough controversy over it.
I know for sure Australia said that Julian Blanc wasn't allowed.
Well, he had gotten into Australia and started doing some stuff, and then they realized what sort of stuff he was promoting and basically told him to get the fuck out.
Didn't his promotional pictures have him choking women or something?
No, well,
was that the thing?
No, it basically what really got him into trouble was he'd done a tour of Japan and he was picking up women in Japan. And one of the things he was saying is, like I said, I got a cold, so I can't remember exactly. But basically, he was like, you
grabbed them by the neck and pushed them at their crotch.
Yeah,
and there was videos of him doing this to random women, like in the mall. Walk down the mall and grab them by the neck and put them at your crotch.
Yeah, something like.
Doesn't get a lot more rapey than that.
That's super creepy.
Yeah, that's rapey.
That's pretty rapey.
Well, it's some kind of assault, yeah.
Well,
rape is a kind of assault, yeah.
There's no actual
penetration.
There's no genital contact at that point, but wow.
Yeah,
there should be.
Because
you should kick them in the nuts immediately.
Yeah.
Unreal,
yeah. Well, it's because they
grab and twist.
What they try to do is they try to, and actually I was watching some of the videos of them doing their little spiel, and it's, all I could think of is maybe because I watched too much Criminal Minds is they're training them how to be sociopaths. Cause like what it is it's training you how to have no empathy and no shame, because it's how to break through that shame barrier and how, it's like, like the one guy, he's talking about how, after doing this pickup stuff for the last 10 years, he's got no shame. Like, he noticed he was at a restaurant and his fly was undone and he's just like, yeah, I didn't care. I could have
So he's a slob.
Well, it was one of those things that he's gotten himself to a point that he has absolutely no shame. He's like, I could have probably walked through that restaurant with my pants around my ankles and I wouldn't cared. Cause like, the core idea of this stuff, which is the one thing I read in the book that kind of makes sense, is it's about, having confidence. And this is where, when they're picking up women, it's about having confidence. But I think these guys from the Real Social Dynamics, they take it to that next level where they just, they're trying to teach these guys that when if they want a woman, they just walk right up and, meanwhile it's like going, that's pretty aggressive and creepy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like it's, yeah.
I'm really not sure what to say about that.
Yeah,
like there is something to be said for confidence, but
of course, yeah.
But some kind of artificially manufactured confidence that doesn't give a damn about anything but getting your dick wet is really creepy.
Yeah. Well, that's just it. Like, I guess cause there's a series of books that came out. Like there's the Mystery Method, which was written by this guy that kind of started this whole pickup artist thing called Mystery. I've seen pictures. Total fucking douchebag. Like, he's the kind of guy that even Chris Angel would look at him and go, that's a little bit too much. But, and
oh, that's good.
And, at any rate, and in this Mystery Method, it gives you the very you want to talk about pseudoscience, read this book, but how to pick up women in this they have charts and all this other kind of weird crap. But I guess I'll bring it for you next time.
Where did they get the statistics to make charts?
I'm pretty sure like
Didn't.
They made
him up. Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, I guess they also wrote like that's that one book, and then there's one they call The Game, which was written by Neil Strauss,
which I've heard of.
which is basically Neil Strauss's kind of story of him hanging out with these guys. And even in that group, like this Tyler Durden guy, who is part of the Real Social Dynamics, they all thought he was a complete asshole.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, they're just like, he's an asshole even amongst these douchebags, you know, like, so.
He's the biggest douchebag.
He's the biggest douchebag. Like, I mean, they didn't mention Julian Blank. He might have came later. I don't know, but.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, you know, I'm kind of on that weird fence where I'm like going, I don't know if we should be arbitrarily denying people. It'd be better if they showed up, if they let them in and no one showed up at his, you know.
But the problem is that people will show
They
up.
will show up.
Yeah, I
But
mean.
you can't teach courses on how to commit sexual assault.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
No, that's not
Legally.
cool. No,
That's not cool.
No, like, I mean, I agree with you. It's just.
Yeah,
You don't have to let
that's the
people
thing
in
we
to teach
shouldn't be
courses
doing.
on how to commit sexual assault. That'd be like letting people come in and do courses on how to roofie women. How to make a roofie colada.
Aren't these people basically hosting courses on how to fail at life? That's what it sounds like to me.
The irony of it is that they teach it as a way to succeed. Even though it is totally.
It's how to fail at life.
Well, it's how
I mean, you ask these guys 20 years later, are you happy? You know, are you fulfilled? Have you discovered a fulfilling relationship?
Well,
have you fallen in love with someone? There's no way.
Well, see, yeah, well, I agree with you. Although the one guy does have a girlfriend and has a kid, but he still teaches these.
That poor kid.
No shit.
That poor girlfriend.
Wow. Unless he treats them better than the things he's teaching.
Because like that's the weird part is that in
like is he just doing it for money? Like he's just,
in
this is an
the
idea
mystery
that
method
he's-
book, if I remember right, because it's been a while since I've read it, they actually make the distinction between what you're doing. If you're out to game chicks, that's what you're doing. But if you want an actual relationship, then it's a total different thing. Like that's why I'm saying it's kind of teaching you how to be a better sociopath.
Yeah.
You know, like it's
right.
What it is.
Compartmentalize this, compartmentalize that.
Yeah.
Separate.
Yeah. Learn to lie with confidence.
yeah, pretty much.
Learn to insult people in some weird backhanded way and think that you're going to get laid while doing it? I don't understand.
Have you read the mystery method? That's actually
basically what it is.
That's one of the lessons.
It's one of the techniques. Is it like basically insulting people or what do they call that?
Negging. It's called negging.
Negging. Okay.
Because the theory being,
Even knows the terminology.
I've read the book, and trust me, I had to listen to it for a long time from a couple guys from when I was working with at the Owl. But it's called negging because, and in the weirdest way, it makes sense, right? Because if you're in a nightclub, and like this is where this is all done, is generally in nightclubs, you're not going to be using this stuff trying to pick up a girl at the library, but
The grocery store.
yeah. But basically, right,
Hopefully
you
not.
go in and there's a group of, attractive women and you ignore the most attractive one, right? You talk to her slightly less attractive friend to create that, well, why isn't he talking to me mentality? And then when you're talking to the really hot one, you neg her because normally guys, oh, you're so hot, you're so beautiful, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So if you neg them a little bit, then they're like, why isn't he kissing
Then they want to prove.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
they-
Why isn't he kissing my ass? Kind of thing.
Yeah.
And this is what, it's kind of a weird reverse psychology.
Yeah.
Seems like weird. Seems weird.
It
Seems like it'll only work on dumb girls.
Yeah.
Well,
Which I think is what they're
that's
going
right.
for.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, in a weird way, it makes a certain amount of sense, but it's also kind of going,
Well,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah,
It doesn't click.
Yeah, I read the book and I kind of went, wow, this is like,
Very cynical.
I'm like, this is a lot of bullshit.
Yeah.
And once again, silence fills the room.
I'm just kind of at a loss at
Yeah.
some of that stuff. Like,
Welcome to the darker part of society.
Yeah, we kind of covered the gamut on, men and women
So this
behaving badly.
so this is the sexual
Rapey.
assault episode.
Yeah. Rape-apalooza.
Rape-apalooza.
Here's the title.
So this sounds like something that would only work if the women weren't aware of the strategy. So
Yeah.
if women were at all aware that you were quote unquote negging them, it wouldn't work.
Well, the funny thing is I have heard of people using these techniques, and when some women who have, and I guess there are women that are part of the pickup artist community. They go to some of these seminars, and there have been times when they go, "I've read the game." I know what you're doing, and it kind of shuts the whole thing down. And then either they walk away in shame, or I guess.
Well, they don't have to read it. I mean, this is a rather common thing now. I mean, we've all actually heard of this as a strategy.
Yeah. Although,
and I'm sure so many women have heard of this.
See, the thing is this is probably where
it's almost like the whole peacocking thing too. Like that's a part of this, right?
Oh yeah, that's totally part of it. That's totally.
Everybody knows what that is, and that's
Which
is
really isn't that much of a douchebag thing. If you want to wear a little bit of a goofy item of clothing as a conversation starter, and and try to strut around a little bit,
I think
whatever.
it's an old school thing. I think, but it's just elevated to douchebag level.
Yeah.
How many guys started smoking as a way to meet women?
My stepson attempted
Yeah.
to try. He smoked a cigarette in order to try to impress a girl in hopes of getting some action, and it didn't work. Yeah. So we're hoping that lesson sunk in.
It can't just be any old thing. I mean, you can't wear a wife beater and go, look, I can touch my armpit hair to my nose. That's not going to work.
It might, depending on where you are, really.
Okay, in Greece it'll be fine.
And I'm thinking some places really down south.
Maybe.
Duck Dynasty territory. Like I can connect braid my beard hair into my armpit hair.
Yeah.
oh Jesus.
Oh man.
Wow. Yeah, so we were saying that if people are aware of this, then it shouldn't work.
That's why I think there's like this Julian Blank and whatever, they've kind of broke off, and that's why they have their different approach, which is more only thing I can think of is hands-on, which is the wrong way to put it.
Not a good way to put it.
But it's a somewhat apt description.
Yeah, so I mean there's
more physical assault, less asshole, just
instead of
verbal asshole.
Instead of just being a slight douche, it's just full on in your face.
Creep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More straight up physical assault.
Yeah.
Way to go, guys.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Awesome. And I'm still I'm a lot shocked that these guys have boot camps and other guys will pay them $2,000 to $3,000.
Desperate, lonely guys.
Yeah.
It's a scam.
With money to burn.
Yeah. It's a wonderful little scam.
They're just another kind of guru.
Yeah, exactly. It's life coaches in a very fucked up way.
Yeah, it's a very fucked up life coach. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that is what it is. Mm-hmm. Like from what I've read, that's kind of how they do it.
Oh yeah. By the way, life coaches are also bullshit. I don't know if anyone knows that.
Unless your life coach is Stephen Colbert.
I've never even heard the term life coach.
Oh, is that right?
No.
Well, they're people who teach you how to be successful.
Oh, those people.
You pay them so that they can give you advice.
What is it? I'm smart, I'm good, and people like me? What's that?
Yeah,
Stephen,
right.
or something Smiley. Stuart Smiley?
Yeah, that's a Saturday Night Live skit.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm good enough. I'm smart enough.
There we go.
Doggone it. People like me.
Yeah,
life coaches are bullshit.
Yeah. Wow. Any of that area, the whole self-help section, as George Carlin so put it, it's not really self-help. If you're going to a book, instead it's just called fucking help.
Exactly.
If you're motivated to buy the fucking book, then you should be motivated to help yourself.
Well, it's like a placebo. If it makes people more confident, does a little something, that's great.
Well,
But these people are taking money,
yeah.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
exorbitant amounts of money for this shit.
Like I said, I mean,
It's ridiculous.
I bought the Mystery Method. I read the Mystery Method, but it cost me $10. That's all I'm going to spend on that. You know,
right? For $10, you can accept what's wisdom and discards what's folly with no repercussions.
Well, in that case, if
not
that's the case, it would have been a pamphlet.
Well, if it was just wisdom, I'm sure
it would have been a pamphlet, maybe a paragraph.
That would be something I'd have to pirate.
There's
no way I would support these people.
Speaking of pirating books, what's his name? Ray Comfort just came out with a book called, that has to do with refuting all the famous atheists.
Oh, good.
Yes.
We know what kind of an intellectual giant Ray Comfort is.
The Banana Man.
Yeah. I couldn't help myself but post on it that I hope somebody torrents this because I'd love to read it and laugh, but I'm not paying money for this.
No, I'm not going to
that's the same thing with the Left Behind movie and any of these other Christian propaganda movies. It might be entertaining to watch it. It might be entertaining to get a bunch of atheists together and watch some of them, but we don't want the people that made it to benefit financially off of us watching it either.
The funny thing is I don't know if you know God's Not Dead. It made $62 million. It cost about $2 million to make, and it's not in the torrents. You can't find it pirated because nobody who pirates movies thought this was worth the fucking time.
Well, all the Christians are too honest to pirate it, maybe?
Wow.
Maybe.
No,
the people who pirate movies just thought, well, fuck this. I'm not spreading this bullshit.
Well, and they're already doing their version of torrent by showing it like in churches.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where they'll have the movie and then show it to a whole bunch of people.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with honesty. I mean, if someone wants to borrow a book from you, well, that's piracy. You're experiencing content you didn't pay for. Oh my God. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's about time people come into the modern age a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's not a black and white issue.
Well, as long as the people that are generating this stuff are able to make some money for generating the stuff and figure out some kind of reasonable business model, then I don't have any big philosophical problem with pirating stuff.
Well, what's the thing? Like, the people who pirate it probably wouldn't be paying for it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of those people would just go without.
Yeah, those kind of people aren't going, you know what, I want to look at the newest Christian blockbuster.
Yeah. That's right.
Do you want to help make the Brainstorm podcast self-sustaining? For just $1 an episode, you can. Go to patreon.com/brainstorm podcast and become a patron. Or go to gumroad.com/brainstorm and pay whatever you want for individual episodes. Support of $35 or more will get you a t-shirt with the Brainstorm logo on it. If you can't give any money, that's fine. Give us a rating and write a review on iTunes or Stitcher. For a limited time, we're offering a Brainstorm t-shirt to the first person to review us on either podcatcher. If you just like listening and want to keep up with the show, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and check out our website, brainstormblog.net.
We are given one life, full of billions of small and large decisions. To be somebody, to change, to be kind, to give hope, to become a better person, and to leave a lasting impact on this planet. It is a decision to be made every single day while your heart is still beating. We've made our decision. Absence of clothing. Atheist and science-based apparel and merchandise. Donating 50% of our profits to charity. Look good and feel good, without God. Check us out at absenceofclothing.com and find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest for discount codes and other sweet swag.
If you use the offer code Brainstorm, you get 10% off. So, because I'm totally unprepared, I got you guys to do your own topics this week.
You have like some questions that you've prepared.
I had
that could have us talking for
a
long time.
Question, really.
It's a very good question, I think.
It is. Like, what kind of nonsense did you used to believe in?
Oh, and
everybody answer at
everybody
once.
is completely flabbergasted.
Well, I was raised as and believed as a evangelical, regular kind of Protestant Christian until sometime in my 20s. So it was kind of gradually discarding things and discarding a few more things and discarding a few more things until really there was nothing left. That I realized that there was so little of it that I could actually put any confidence in that I just sort of discarded the whole thing. But yeah, I started out full bore Christian and all that, and a fair bit more conservative because I was raised that way, and just you have that kind of pounded into you. But somehow it didn't stick, so neither one stuck. But it's not like there's a lot of people you hear that. When they were basically trying to get the indoctrination in when they were teenagers or when they were 12 or 14 or something, and it just never took. They immediately rebelled against it. But I was never the rebellious type. I was always the, go along with the program kind.
Right.
And so it wasn't until I was in my late 20s and 30-ish that I finally went, oh, I have the power and the confidence to decide for myself what's reality and what isn't.
So your woo is theism.
Basically theism. I never really dabbled in much other woo because all the rest of it just seemed a bit flaky and goofy and, fanciful and interesting, but really not worth investing myself in.
Do you find yourself credulous in any ways now?
You ever catch yourself?
I try not to be. I don't know. I like to think plants do wonderful semi-magical things, but that's just because I'm a plant enthusiast. I don't know. But they do. There's some truth to that. They do some cool things. But,
photosynthesis is cool.
It's
photosynthesis is very cool.
Yeah. No, I mostly don't. I'm a little bit, I guess I'll say I'm agnostic about ghosts and things because, I've had some rather odd experiences where I rather felt like my late husband was around or walking around and going up and down the stairs. But, it's not something that I can, objectively verify. And, it was like midnight and I was getting freaked out and, imagination does sometimes run away with you. So yeah.
Especially if there's emotional content.
Yeah. And then, I had very strange, vivid dreams that, where there was, they were a bit odd, but it's nothing that can't really be explained by just, brains having a little moment. But, I wouldn't completely discount or rule out the possibility of some form of lingering something in that hangs around for a while. But not something that I take up as a hobby.
No. You're going to say, well, I would completely discount it, but that's perhaps a different discussion.
That takes it more in depth. That goes to the idea of dualism and
sure,
such.
Yeah, it's I think with ghosts, any sort of actual belief in ghosts comes a sort of soul baggage. You're going to believe that ghosts exist, then you have to believe there's such a thing as souls.
Right.
Because what are ghosts if not disembodied souls?
Mm-hmm.
If you believe that souls exist, that usually comes with religious baggage. So all of the stuff comes with all sorts of metaphysical baggage that I just can't be a part of, you know?
But I think you can technically be an atheist. You can be an atheist and still believe in ghosts.
Absolutely. Atheism only addresses the God question.
Yeah. Yeah. It's difficult to be a skeptic and, be a big ghost enthusiast, which I wouldn't say I am, but I'm.
But it's easy to be curious and.
Yeah. I'm curious and, quite interested. If anybody actually did come up with any evidence of something, then, is there a different plane of some kind of existence where something hangs on somewhere? I doubt it, but
if there is,
don't know.
We got a lot of explaining to do. We have to explain how we lose all of our conscious experience ability as we lose brain functionality.
Yeah.
When our brain is damaged and we lose sight and we lose hearing and we lose our ability to remember and our ability to use language and all of these different brain damages. Once the entire brain is damaged, it's dead. Why would all of these come back? Why would we be disembodied like that?
Yeah.
We have to explain, because as far as we can tell, consciousness and brain activity are intimately connected. So if we're going to say, well, in fact, once the brain is entirely dead, that consciousness all comes back and it's just disembodied. It seems completely counter to everything we know.
Yeah.
It's not logically impossible. You know what I mean? But
it's not holding up very well with the model of So I really don't know, but my first husband had died of brain cancer, which was basically a process of watching the brain deteriorate. Yeah. And one of the things that it was basically like watching Alzheimer's in fast motion. Yeah. But there was little bits of the personality. And when you talk about, what makes a person, it's their personality. But sometimes people's personalities can completely change due to brain damage, right?
Yeah.
So
particularly frontal lobe damage.
Yeah. So, but there was a little bit of personality. There was a little bit of personality, that I could still catch every so often, that I was like, okay, there's still the same person that I knew in there somewhere, even though he doesn't, understand hardly anything that's going on or know me as me or whatever. And there was a little bit of comfort to that. But then there was nothing particularly comforting about the idea that, or the impression that I got that he was kind of hanging around after he died. And then it's just, that's all it was an impression. Which I didn't particularly lose sleep over, because I didn't, I figured even if there was some form of hanging around, it wasn't as though it meant me any ill will. So,
that's good. A lot of people would interpret it differently, right?
Yeah.
There are people who think us automatically assume some sort of malevolence to.
Yeah. Well, and there was this one night that I had this incredibly lucid dream that he was still alive, but he looked like he did when the day he died, which was bad. And he wrote down, you forgot about me. And it was like, that was freaky.
I had a really freaky dream. The night after Heidi's father died, I dreamt that he came to me and we had a chat, and I assured him that he was a good father. We had a chat about that.
Yeah.
And I'd never had any sort of dream. The guy was barely a part of my life at all. And it was this really lucid, really vivid dream. It's very strange. And it was it was an event that hadn't really impacted me yet. Heidi wasn't even in town. So I just caught wind of what was going on. It wasn't a huge part of my life yet. So maybe it was me dealing with it for the first time subconsciously.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But it was a very, very trippy experience.
Yeah. I had a couple of
So I
really
understand that.
trippy dreams that, you know, and it wasn't like normal dreams. It was like really some weird shit. and yeah. And it was a while after I met that's now my current husband, and there was this impression that my first husband, in the dream, that he didn't like him being there. that he shouldn't leave his stuff at my house. He didn't like him in my house. And like there's some interesting stuff there. And yeah. But then eventually we moved and it was fine.
That might just all be you.
And it might be, and I never put it, you know, farther than that. But
I would say it probably is.
Yeah.
I would say the same of me.
Yeah. But, you know, there is, I do reserve a little bit of uncertainty there where, you know, people would say, you know, you've had ghost experiences or whatever. And I'm like, you know, experiences are difficult to account for, and you can't use the plural of anecdote is not proof.
It's not data.
It's not data.
Yeah.
But it's, there are some rather interesting experiences people have had that, you know, are meaningful and suggestive and interesting.
I don't know. That seems to be one of the more common things cross-culturally is this idea of ghosts, you know, so
dualism.
I mean, I'm not saying it, you know, once again, I don't think, you know, it's proves anything, but it is kind of an interesting thing that it is an idea that is cross-culture.
Oh, and that one thing I found interesting was that there has been this idea that you need to bury people and put them to rest for so long in human history that I've found really interesting. And it wasn't until his ashes were interred several months after he had died that things kind of calmed down. And his ashes were not even at my house. They were elsewhere. But it wasn't until then. And, you know, and that's, partly just me feeling like it's finished maybe. But yeah, I was not having a real peaceful time of things until he was properly in the ground. And it does make me wonder, why is that such a common thread through so much of history and so much fear of ghosts and so much fear of ancestors and, you know, having to make sure that the dead are at peace.
I almost want to say that's more a question for psychologists.
Actually,
I don't know.
The weird thing is I actually did an anthropology paper on that kind of stuff. Like there's, I did a paper on, actually on this whole idea of, revenants or vampires. And it was the one example I used was actually, it was a Greek village where what they do is, they do secondary burials. And basically the practical side of that is small village, they only have a certain amount of land that they can use for burials. And so what they do is when they bury you, you are, when you die, you're buried, and generally it's like a 5-year span. And during that whole 5-year span, your family is generally in mourning for that whole time. And the weird thing is then they dig you up, and then they look at how your body is decomposed, and that's how they see how you've been judged. And then what they do is then they ceremonially bury you in the village burial ground. At that point, you're incorporated into the ancestors. And like where it gets kind of funny and weird is that there was examples of people that they were concerned about how they were being judged. Like where the normal span was about 5 years. But this one guy who was like just he was a drunk and a gambler and all these bad things. So they left him in the ground for an extra 2 years just to make sure, because if they dug him up and their bodies weren't decomposed, to them that was a judgment from God that these were bad people and that they might be coming back as, revenants to, what was the proper term? Viracocos? Or basically like a vampire-like entity to,
or a zombie,
whatever term you want to use. Basically, an undead being to spread disease and chaos and whatever throughout the village. But it was funny was that they kind of went, just to make sure, we're going to leave him in the ground for another couple years.
This asshole gets an extra couple of years.
But that's just it, is once they're incorporated into the village, I can't remember whether it was a tomb or just a plot or what, but once they're incorporated, they're then considered part of the ancestors. They're no longer concerned about them. They're incorporated, and the family can then come out of the mourning clothes, and they're able to reincorporate into society and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's an interesting thing that's cross-culture. Like, you know,
there's good neurological bases for all that behavior, really. I mean, the fact that we're capable of talking to people when they're not there.
Yeah.
You know, our imagination.
Imagining somebody else's side of a conversation kind of thing.
Yeah. So, of course we do it after they're dead.
Yeah.
There's neurological bases for all sorts of things like that. And of course there is. That's why it's so cross-cultural.
Well, they actually say that was one of the first, they use that as one of the first symbols of the beginning of civilization, was the fact that they found like some, you know, I can't think of how long, like ancient like caveman, where they find them buried with artifacts that have no practical reason. They were just buried with these things, and they see that as one of the first signs of civilization, that they went through the process of burying their dead and obviously giving them items that they cherished in life and stuff like that. So
there's something that people have found very meaningful and important and necessary in, you know, the grave goods and how much time and resources they're investing in burying with dead people has been pretty significant for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, does it prove ghosts or anything? No, it doesn't. But it is interesting. But it is interesting that it is cross-culture, and it's something that humanity has.
It's been a very persistent theme from the very infancy of anything you could call.
It really goes to show that it's not culturally dependent. It's really species dependent.
It seems to be.
That's why it's cross-cultural.
Well, the only thing
humans. This is something
but then again,
do.
how far back does this idea? It was passed on, and how far back does that go back?
I think there was even some indications that then maybe the Neanderthals were doing it a little bit.
Well, that's one of the things that make them want to reassess their thoughts on the Neanderthals. Yeah. Because they've been forever thought of these brutish beasts and whatnot, but they found some evidence that maybe not. That may not be the case.
Yeah, no, I think more and more evidence is coming to light that they were a lot more like whatever we evolved from, Homo sapiens, or
we are Homo sapiens.
Yeah, like or whatever.
Homo erectus.
Homo erectus. Is that where this
I don't remember
thing was? But actually, I think they even found some evidence to suggest that we have Neanderthal DNA in ourselves.
I've seen something. I found something on YouTube where they were talking about that instead of like the more common idea was that I don't know the proper terms, but modern man killed out Neanderthal, but actually probably what it is, they just interbred.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. You.
Hi.
What kind of nonsense did you believe in?
I used to believe in all sorts of nonsense. All sorts of nonsense, but I'm not going to bring it all up here because a lot of it isn't relevant. I've changed my mind on a lot of things over the years, and a lot of it was because of philosophical argument. People appealing to me philosophically. But we're talking about woo, I think.
Yeah.
When it comes to woo, I used to share with you the notion that reality is determined by our perceptions, our beliefs.
Yeah.
So the notion, for example, is that the earth was once flat.
Because people believed it.
Because everyone believed it was flat. Which, of course, isn't true. Everyone didn't believe it was flat.
That's true.
But used to think that reality was shaped by perception.
Yeah.
So it was that new agey thing back when we were kids.
Yeah, that's right.
That we could affect reality with our thoughts. It came from, what was that guy's name? Richard
Bach.
Richard Bach.
Yeah.
That was his books.
Yeah,
He's
very
responsible for my woo.
Illusions, The Adventures of a Reluctant Messiah.
Yeah, that was the very
was
first
the
book,
book,
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We used to believe some silly shit.
Yeah. But none of it seemed to pan out. You know, throughout my entire life, not once have I been able to affect reality with my mind in a way that isn't obvious. You know, like right now I'm moving my arm.
Right.
I'm doing that with my mind. But that's not what we mean.
No, that's right. You can't turn a wall into a door.
Sure, or walk through a wall.
Power of positive thinking, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
well,
but
no, you
more
can
than that
if
even.
you run really fast and you don't hit a stud.
Yeah, if you hit nothing but drywall, you will go through.
Quite possible.
Quite possibly.
Yeah. That's not quite the way things were thought of.
Now there's, now I no longer believe that. After taking the differences between idealism, realism, solipsism, all of that in philosophy, I started to figure out that there was no room for anything I believed. There was no way to make it sound reasonable to me. So I had to discard it. I had no choice.
Are you credulous about anything now?
You know, I think I occasionally find myself too credulous about things, and I explore them. Afterwards, I realize that I was kind of an idiot, and I wish I had examples. I really do, because I know there are a few, like somewhat recently in the past few years.
Is that right?
Things that I've seen on the internet, and things that I thought, yeah, you know, that sounds good. And I didn't explore them, and it turned out they were bullshit, and I just can't think of what they were. But I know damn well I'm not perfect. So the most conceited man in the world is somehow not perfect and believes he's not perfect. Yeah, that's really all I have to say.
Rene? What kind of silly shit did you believe in?
Well, I guess growing up in an old creaky house, I kind of questioned the ghost thing. I never really bought into it. But yeah, you know, old creaky house, it makes weird noises. You start to question and then you roll over and go back to bed. You know, it's nothing I really truly pondered, though I guess I find, you know, the whole ancient aliens thing, I find that shit fascinating. I don't buy into it, but it is interesting.
Right.
I don't know if I don't, you know, if I no longer believe in it, I still love watching that shit. I guess that's my woo that's
your still credulous type of woo.
Yeah. I don't like totally believe into it, but I do find it interesting. I find more interesting is that these guys are supposed to be educated. They truly believe this shit.
Right.
And Mike's shaking his head at me and shit.
No, actually, you're not credulous about it, though. Yeah. You don't believe in it. It doesn't quite fit.
No, I guess not.
Is there anything you were really, really stupid about? Come on, you were a kid once, too.
Oh, yeah. Everybody believes.
Like, I was 100% credulous about what we called perceptionism.
Yeah, that's right.
There's a lot of that stuff I just didn't super think about. Like, I mean, I'd read a bunch of shit, but never really gave it too much thought.
Yeah, fair enough.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing, is because like my grandparents were very Anglican, but we were never forced to go, so I never had that element to it.
Yeah.
You know, sure, went to Sunday school and whatever, but it was just something to do. I didn't really buy into any of that shit. Like prayer, what's that? Waste of time. It's not like I ever thought about it going, constantly going, well, I'm going to pray. No, this is total bullshit. It's just something I'm just like, okay, waste of time. So just not something I really, really pondered too closely.
Yeah, same here when it came to religion. I was in an evangelical Lutheran church as well.
Yeah.
So in Sunday school and shit.
Yeah, it was just
I don't even remember thinking anything about it at all.
Just something to do. Yeah.
It's just a place that I was required to go for a while.
Yeah. I don't know. It's just something I don't give too much thought about. It's just stuff that happens,
Yeah.
I guess, part of the problem is that, especially after taking, like, say, an anthropology class and reading some of those books, and then reading stuff like Wade Davis, where it's kind of the opposite of what you were talking about, but, you can change reality through your mind or whatever. One of his ideas is you culturally construct your reality, which I don't know if it's the same thing, but, where your belief system kind of translates what's around you. And so I believe into that shit. So I'm, and that's just it, is if you buy into that crap, then it's going to be kind of true to you. So I guess that makes me credulous on everything.
Well, that just sounds like you're looking at the world through your own colored glasses.
Yeah, I guess.
Filter.
I guess that's true. That's fair enough.
Because if that's the way you're looking at it, that doesn't sound like woo at all. That sounds like common sense.
Or just really cynical.
Yeah.
Well, I am cynical.
Really cynical. But I guess the other thing, where I think we've had that discussion before, where you guys are anti-chiropractor. Mm-hmm. I'm not totally anti. I guess that's the woo I believe in, but I don't go on a weekly basis to get cracked or whatever. But I have gone a couple times with different problems and it's helped, but I haven't gone for
more than a placebo would have.
Well, no, there was one, I can think of it as a kid. There was one specific incident. This is going to sound really goofy, but we had a woodshed at home and we had to
all goofy stories. Yeah, start with a woodshed
or really dark and disturbing ones. But anyway, I was having to get wood to bring into the house, and I stepped off the ledge really funny and fell over. And for like 6 weeks, I couldn't walk. Like my foot was just it was so painful to step on it that couldn't walk. We went to the doctor. They x-rayed it. Nothing's wrong. Nothing wrong. Finally, we said, screw it. Went to a chiropractor. And he felt around. And what had happened was there was a bone in my foot had twisted and locked into place. And he was able to manipulate it and pop it back into place. And after that, I was walking, whereas the doctor was like, I have no idea what's wrong with you.
Yeah.
So
well, that's what chiropractors are for.
That's what they're supposed to be for.
They do relieve back pain.
Well,
the woo comes in when the chiropractor is like, oh, I can cure all of your ailments with just a
I can cure your liver.
Yeah, exactly. I can
I've never had that experience, and I've never bought into that.
I don't think it should even be controversial that chiropractors can deal with your back pain.
Well, they can do a bit of traction, basically. Like they're fully capable of doing some traction on your
putting
back.
Bones back into joints.
And doing a bit of stretching of things and basically some of the same stuff that the physio people
exactly. It's like a specialized physiotherapy in a sense.
Kind of.
Yeah.
I know when I hurt my back, like it's still not 100%, but like I had popped a joint out in my lower back, and the chiropractor was able to get it back into place to a point where I wasn't in like literally I could sit for 20 minutes, then I'd have to stand. Sit for 20 minutes, have to stand, because it's just such searing pain. But he was able to get it back into place where I can function. It's still kind of screwy and I got a bad back, but he was able to put it sort of back in place. But
right.
Yeah, I mean, anything other than that,
I think there's something to be said for their adjustment of backs or perhaps other joints. It starts to get problematic, not just when they do, it can cure your liver or whatever, but also if they make neck adjustments. Neck adjustments can often lead to stroke.
Yeah, that one's
it becomes very, gray area, very not unproven type area.
I'd be, little leery.
But as far as back goes, I think most people are pretty accepting of the idea that they can kind of.
It's like a limited field. It reminds me of a lot of people are interested in herbal or ancient medicine. We were talking about this.
Yeah,
an ancient medication might be effectual to an extent,
right?
And if it is, then we've tested it. In fact, we've boiled it down to the active ingredient, and we only use the active ingredient, and all of the extraneous shit that causes all of these terrible side effects. We leave that out and we just use the active ingredient.
Yeah.
That's what we've taken from the old herbal medicine.
But they certainly haven't exhausted a lot of those herbal medicines.
But they have falsified a lot of herbal medicine.
Quite a few of them have been evaluated, but they've certainly not exhausted them in terms of actually evaluating them. But part of the problem is finding things that can be patented and developed, because there's not that much incentive to put in the time and money necessary to develop some sort of extract of some plant unless you can commodify it in some way. And if it's been in use by, Chinese medicine or some other brand of traditional medicine for centuries, then it's hard to say that this is a novel thing that you've just discovered and therefore have the rights to. So that's been a thing that's been plaguing. Oh, and that's actually a big problem, like in the Amazon and places where the pharmaceuticals are going in and finding plants that they can use for whatever kind of treatments or drugs that they can take extracts from, or, find some biologically potent compound in a plant and then remake it synthetically and turn it into medicine. Well, if that was a traditional medicine used by the local Amazons or whatever, then it's rather dishonest to say that you've just discovered it. You might have been the first one to develop it commercially, but there's you're kind of the people who were from that Amazon rainforest that have been using that medicine for ages and ages aren't generally benefiting a whole hell of a lot from the pharmaceutical riches coming out of the rainforest. That's unfortunate.
But I think in a lot of cases when it comes to this herbal medicine, they're not it doesn't pan out. So you've got, we've had this ancient cure for whatever for a very long time. Sorry, but that's never actually worked better than a placebo. So
there's a lot of cases where it hasn't.
Once it's tested, it becomes apparent that
there's a few things that have kind of mild effects for chronic problems, like something like St. John's wort has actually been proven out to have a mild, like, antidepressant kind of effect, or something like pot.
That actually sounds right. I think
there was there are a few, and there's some that are just this is kind of good for settling your stomach, or this is good for
like pot is good for nausea and pain relief.
Yeah, mint is rather good for your stomach, or ginger is very good for nausea. Yeah. Or there's a lot of things that people have figured out over a very long period of time that is good for managing minor little issues that come up as a human being that don't require massive pharmaceuticals. And something like pot was one of them, but that was outlawed for the last century or whatever, for I don't think any particular good reason. But we'd rather have some pharmaceutical artificial thing that tries to do what pot would do but do it badly.
I think that each of those things deserves to be researched. If someone says, well, this herb actually traditionally does this, well, research that a bit, maybe try it out. It's not harmful if it doesn't have that potential. But when we were talking about this earlier, when someone comes along and says, well, look, this does A, B, C, D, and D, it'll clean out your kidneys.
And two of those are contradictory.
But you can't test it or it won't work.
But Heidi was saying, if a doctor told you, here's a medication that will do 8 different things for you, and you'll never have diarrhea for the rest of your life, all of the stuff, wouldn't you think he's a fucking quack?
The irony is, if you watch the commercials for most of those drugs, it's more like, this drug will do this for you. It might cause 8 side effects.
The side effects are much worse than the cure.
Yeah. But that's the thing about the naturopath or the herbal supplements. They can claim that it will help with constipation, and it will help with diarrhea, and it will help with 6 other symptoms that contradict each other. You can't cure both of them at the same time.
So it's both a laxative and an anti-laxative?
Hold on a second. Yeah.
How does that work?
Yeah. If a doctor came to you and said this stuff, you'd be like, is it tested? Is it real? How does this work?
Is that a case of dosage?
Maybe.
I don't know.
Do you take this much, it'll cure your diarrhea. This much more, it'll cure your constipation by causing diarrhea.
Yeah, I don't know.
That does not sound consistent to me.
I'm just giving possibilities.
Yeah.
Well, let's take,
basically people have been trying to use plants for somewhat medicinal things for a very long time in a trial and error kind of basis. And I think some of the time they manage to find things that are somewhat efficacious. And there's actually some indications that animals do much the same thing, that they will, if they have something wrong with them, if they've got a stomach ache or something, they will go and preferentially eat certain things in order to try to cure themselves of that. And I read about it quite a while ago, so I don't have any good reference off the top of my head, but there are some indications that nature has picked up a few little self-help tips that got wired in somehow.
Conditioning.
I find very interesting.
Yeah. The relief of pain.
Yeah. They learn that this makes me feel better.
Yeah.
I better let my offspring know or
this
something.
Will make them feel, in some way. Yeah.
And I think generally it's taught even by, animals that you don't really think of being able to teach things to their young. They still do.
Well,
they still teach them things.
Yeah.
It's a matter of degrees, not a black and white distinction. I hate that.
Yeah, that's right. There's not sentient and not sentient.
Yeah. Throughout philosophy, there's this unfortunate tendency to think of animals as not rational and humans as rational. And that's just garbage
it's not
thinking.
the way to think of it.
It's not a black and white distinction. It's all a matter of degrees.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. On that note, let's take a quick break.
All right.
This song is from an artist I just recently heard about. Tombstone the Dead Man. Very cool stuff. I was checking out his stuff on Bandcamp, and this song stood out as a very skeptical, very good song. It's called What If I Told You, and it's off his album Cosmic. Links to go buy it yourself will be in the show notes, or you can check it out before that at Tombstone the Dead Man, all one word, .bandcamp.com.
Listen, I know. Take it easy. Calm down. I know it's scary. I know you're afraid. But what I need you to do is just sit down and listen. What if I told you you could distrust the government and still not believe all the bullshit that I was coming with? What if I told you your suspicious rants were just that, not enough data to consider, so they just fall flat? What if I told you every claim must have its own merit? Bias is just baggage that will not make evidence apparent. It seems you're dragging down this conversation with this current wave of paranoia, so it hampers you from ever learning. What if I told you you suffered from Dunning-Kruger effect? So experts in any given field you won't respect. I bet you think that all your debunking is valid, but I see nothing with balance, just a bunch of word salad. Just a battle of misconstrued notions, overstatements and speculations that rile up your compromised emotions. Look, I understand the world is scary, but is latching on to every conspiracy theory really necessary? What if I told you none of the things you say expose truth? It's quite the opposite, homie, they just expose you. Your paranoia informs you. What you think is true is only the reflection of the fear, and you don't have a clue. What if I told you you're not a truth seeker? You calling people dumb, but see you're not that bright either. I think you need to breathe until you figure this out, and really think about it all before you open your mouth. What if I told you our physical senses are not infallible? In fact, we're easily fooled. Our memories are malleable, subject to be altered by the passage of time and other factors that contribute to us changing our minds. And if you think that I'm lying, go and study up on neuroscience. See why your reliance on eyewitness claims is not guidance. So when people say they saw a ghost or UFO, apply a skeptical tone and see how conversations go. What if I told you you're practically unbalanced? Opinions are corrupted because you're factually challenged. What's worse is that you hardly ever seem to care about the sources of your information when you share. They say that I'm not fair because I scrutinize and brutalize and label every foolish notion just a pack of stupid lies. But if you want to hear a sorry, I apologize. I wouldn't hold my breath because you'll be waiting for a long time. What if I told you none of the things you say expose truth? It's quite the opposite, homie, they just expose you. Your paranoia informs you. What you think is true is only the reflection of the fear, and you don't have a clue. What if I told you you're not a truth seeker? You calling people dumb, but see you're not that bright either. I think you need to breathe until you figure this out and really think about it all before you open your mouth.
So you're saying there's nothing to be afraid of?
No, actually, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying there are plenty of things to be concerned about. But listen, you got to use some critical thinking and fact check. Okay. Stop just running, chasing behind your biases, man. You're just afraid of every damn thing. So you're looking for something that's going to reaffirm your fear. Chill with all that.
I mean, damn.
What if I told you none of the things you say expose truth? It's quite the opposite, homie, they just expose you. Your paranoia informs you. What you think is true is only the reflection of the fear, and you don't have a clue. What if I told you you're not a truth seeker? You calling people dumb, but see you're not that bright either. I think you need to breathe until you figure this out, and really think about it all before you open your mouth.
We're going again?
Oh yeah.
Okay, cool. So I guess just so that I'm not accused of avoiding the whole "what did you used to believe" nonsense, I believed all of it at one point or another. Just it was like a sliding scale. Like at one point I believed in God. At one point I believed that God talked to people. At one point I believed in perceptionism.
Yeah.
And at one point I believed in tarot and ghosts and Ouija boards. And everything that you could possibly call bullshit I used to believe in at one point. And
and what changed?
To be honest, I'm not sure. I guess I started learning.
Maturity. I think for a lot of people that there's some pretty significant changes in maturation that goes on when they're in their 30s. That, a lot of the people that do start getting politically active or rejecting religion and becoming atheists and things, a lot of them it happens in their 30s.
Yeah. Or they backslide.
Some of them or they decide it's easier to raise a family as part of a church and as part of not bucking the trend. So a lot of them will go back into it because you've sort of gotten over your initial rebellion stage and trying to figure out who you are in life, and then maybe at that point you start looking around at everything else and going, well, if this is who I am, how does that apply to the rest of the world? That's sort of what I think.
I really, really, really wanted to believe in magic. That was
me too, man.
I really wanted it to be real. And that was the
But after that third expansion, you're not talking about the card game.
Yeah, it was terrible after that
Wizards
one
of the Coast wrecked it though.
Really
I
did.
no longer believe in magic.
Yeah. And I guess, as you get older, you realize that no matter how many times you wish for something, it's just not coming true.
Yeah.
Yeah, not because you wish for it anyway.
Yeah, that's
if it comes true, the fact that you wished for it turns out to be incidental.
Yeah, exactly.
No, what you have to do is get enough likes on Facebook.
That's when Jesus cures the cancer.
Yeah. I got to a point where wishful thinking was not really a luxury I could afford, and so and everybody gets to that point, I think, at a different point in their life.
Yeah.
Where, some people are quite happy to exist in a condition of wishful thinking, for a very long time. And,
for sure.
And other people, it's, they try to distill down fact from nonsense at some point. Or need to. It's not even that you want to, it's that you feel the need to. So.
Well, I think I've always had a high desire for things to be true. I just didn't have the right tools for determining what was true. So.
Yeah. And I wish they taught logical fallacies and some basic life-proofing skills in school.
There needs to be almost a critical thinking class in high school.
Logic 100.
Yeah.
Logic 100 needs to be taught in every school around the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And does that include logical fallacies?
Yes. It should.
It should.
Yep.
That's some pretty basic stuff. Because advertising and, politics and all kinds of stuff is chock full of logical fallacies that they're trying to pass off to people for stupid reasons. And people need to be armed with the ability to identify those dirty tricks, basically.
Yeah, for sure. You need tools to see through the bullshit.
The first thing you learn in Logic 100 is, in what cases do conclusions follow from premises? So right there, you're learning about logical fallacies.
Yeah.
I mean, you start off learning about the formal fallacies, you don't even really need to move on to the informal fallacies after that. Afterwards, it's like, okay, so somebody's like, I feel that X is correct, therefore X is correct. Okay, well, obviously that's a bad argument. You don't need more training to go on to the informal fallacies like that, because they're just fucking totally obvious to you.
Yeah. But it might be instructive and useful to basically have a lot of different typical examples.
Yep.
That, these are patterns of them that you'll see over and over and over again.
And you'll get that in logic too. If you take logic, you totally get that.
Yeah.
You get all sorts of wonderful examples that are rather mind-blowing for some people.
Mm-hmm.
It's a difficult class for some people to pass. So it's very good training for anyone.
Yeah,
it should be in every school.
Yeah. I took Logic 100. I got a 58.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I did not do so well.
I took Logic 100, 200, and 400. I was a prodigy in logic. My professors loved me.
I obviously don't have a logical mind.
That's not true. You probably just didn't apply yourself. I know you. You're a fucking smart guy.
Yeah, but not
it's
in that way.
It's difficult shit.
Yeah.
Weren't you good at math?
Nope.
Okay, well, the same sort of area of the brain.
See, I do well in where there's kind of gray areas, that you can kind of bullshit around. I'm fine with that, but math and that kind of stuff, when it's so cut and dry, nah, not so good.
Oh no.
Just
that's all right. You got through it. You took Logic 100.
I did.
You're ahead of the majority of the human race right there.
Yeah.
And you passed it.
I passed it. Just barely, but I passed it.
Well, good on you.
Yeah. really, I think all it was is there was one section where, I think it was like you had to, do the logical whatever.
Like the math of language. It's SL, sentential logic.
Yeah. I was able to figure out the pattern. And I was able to get like an 81 on that one test. And that's the only thing that saved me.
It's funny. I took most of my courses. I took my courses in Weyburn at the campus in Weyburn.
Yeah.
And, I took that same stuff, but it was called Math 101.
Oh yeah.
So I don't know.
Logic is counted as a math course here.
Okay.
So it counts as your math. So
maybe it was the same kind of basics.
Not
logic.
What they call it at the university, but it might transfer.
It seemed it all seemed very straightforward. It wasn't math. It wasn't numbers the way I normally thought of math growing up, but it was basically logic.
Would you describe it as the math of language?
I don't know if I'd...
You probably didn't take Logic 100 then. It's probably something else. Some kind of strange hybrid.
It was weird. I think I was the only one who passed it, actually. The guy who taught it was very cool, though. Kind of an older guy with a white beard and very British and very clever. He was very good.
Dumbledore.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, no. Except without the robe.
Without the robe.
Not good naked, stuff. Just regular clothes.
That would make for an awkward class. Okay, today we're teaching logic, but they wouldn't let me wear my robe. So
this is what you get. Just a quick break to talk about our sponsor, Audible.com. Audible.com is offering listeners of Brainstorm a free audiobook download and a free 30-day trial membership. Membership gives you reduced prices on over 150,000 titles for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player, and costs $14.95 per month after the first free month. I signed up a few weeks ago, and I'm still listening to Your Deceptive Mind, a scientific guide to critical thinking skills with Dr. Stephen Novella from the Great Courses Lecture Series. For your 30-day free trial membership and your free audiobook download, go to audibletrial.com/brainstorm. That's audibletrial.com/brainstorm. I'd also like to tell you about reasonistproducts.com. T-shirts and hoodies with science, reason, and atheist themes. They've got good prices and offer a buy one get one free deal with the coupon code BRAINSTORM. For a limited time, they're also offering a free T-shirt to Brainstorm listeners. Be the first person to tweet the word Brainstorm to them at Reasonist Products with no vowels in the word products. That's at Reasonist, PRDCTS, reasonistproducts.com. So I guess, if I was to say that I'm still credulous about anything, it would be weightlifting supplements. I'm often taken in by the whole promise of easy muscle building. I mean, I love going to the gym. I'm into that whole thing, bodybuilding and whatnot. And the idea that something would make building muscle and cutting fat easier, I don't know, it appeals to something in my head that just, I go, oh, I should try that. And I have to stop and think before I realize that, wait a sec.
That's the problem I find is because I'm interested in getting into that kind of stuff. But that's just it. You walk in down that aisle and you go, holy fuck, there's a lot of these things.
You really gotta do your research, like, cause so much of it is, like, it's so much bullshit behind it. And the whole fitness industry actually has, like, a lot of self-perpetuated nonsense. They're the ones who push the multivitamins. They're the ones who claim you need to take your protein half an hour after you work out. They're the ones who, like, they push the diet pills too. They also like to talk about organic food. And,
that whole protein half an hour after you work out is totally debunked, eh?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, we talked about that some time ago. I don't know if
I don't know if we ever did it on podcast, but your body stores protein.
Yeah.
And when you work out, it uses that protein. And then when you eat, it replenishes that protein. The half-hour window is totally nonsense. Mm-hmm. So,
as long as you're consuming it.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, regularly. Yeah. It's all good.
So eat your protein. Just don't worry about the timing of it.
Yeah. If you feel like puking after a big workout, don't feel like all in a panic to eat a hamburger.
No.
A bunch of eggs or a steak.
Something that I always found interesting was the raw egg thing, which is obviously nonsense.
Yeah. That one's an old myth that's been around forever, yeah. Well, it's protein, but...
It's protein, but it doesn't have to be raw eggs.
Eggs are the superfood. They have just about everything you need in them.
Right?
They're supposed to. I mean, it's like amniotic fluid.
Yeah.
You know, it's supposed to have absolutely everything in it. But yeah, it doesn't really matter if you eat them raw, I don't think.
No, it doesn't matter at all.
Mystical, magical food, though.
It's a good food.
Yeah.
I like eggs. I eat a lot of them.
Watch out for the cholesterol.
Yeah. Yep. You still got to be aware of what's going into your body.
I'm eating Reese's peanut butter cups right now, so yeah.
We're aware of 2 chocolate bars going into your body.
I believe I'm drinking alcohol.
I believe you are.
You believe, therefore it is reality.
Therefore, perceptionism. This beer looks like alcohol. No, I always like to read about. I'm currently in the process of learning more about creatine because there's supposedly a lot of research backing it up, but I'm not entirely convinced anymore. So I'm still learning. A lot of shit I used to accept just as facts, I'm re-looking into the more I learn. So
after we used to go out for supper, you used to pull out your big dirty pill bottle thing, pill case, and down like 8 or 9 pills.
My multivitamins, my test booster,
You don't do that anymore?
Well, no, I do still take a test booster, even though it's probably just a placebo. I don't take a multivitamin.
Good.
I do take a post-workout, here I'm using quotes, amino acid complex. I don't know if it's, see, this is where I'm still credulous. Like, I still believe some of the claims that they make.
Yeah.
And, so I'm still learning, but I want to believe this stuff. That's the problem.
Well, we won't take the training wheels off of your skeptic bike yet.
No. My girlfriend makes fun of me all the time.
Yeah. She thinks all that is woo or what?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And it could be.
It could be.
It could be. I'm pretty sure
if
creatine
she
has
starts replacing your testosterone booster with Tic Tacs, that's a science experiment,
and nothing happens,
and nothing bad happens, then you'll keep us informed.
Yeah. Creatine, like I say, has supposedly a pretty decent database behind it, but it's still, as far as I can tell, a lot of that research is funded by supplement companies, so it's questionable.
Not good enough.
It's questionable.
It's preliminary then.
Yeah.
If you actually want results, you need independent sources that don't have money
repeatable.
on the line. Yeah, it has to be repeated by independent sources.
For sure.
Otherwise, it's really nothing that matters at all.
But I'm still taking it.
It's just suggestive. Yeah. In the meantime, it's, you just...
One thing I do know
unlikely to do any harm
is that the pre-workout drinks have lots of caffeine, and they have glutamine, which makes your skin tingle. So it feels like it's doing something. So, all the good ones have that feeling, right? Which is glutamine. I think it's glutamine.
I have no idea.
I think that's the one that makes your skin tingle.
Could be.
Slight correction. Beta-alanine is the amino acid that supposedly is in pre-workout drinks, or is in pre-workout drinks that makes your skin tingle.
They just spike it with meth.
A little bit of coke.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know if they're allowed to do that.
But they do it anyway.
They just relabel it.
There used to be a saying in like the bodybuilding world where they ban anything that works. And I've since learned that that's a propaganda idea from supplement companies.
Is that like the email that goes around? These are the 3 things your doctor doesn't want you to know.
Yes, it's very much like that. Yeah. It's like these secrets are, or the weight loss secret your doctor doesn't want you to know. Wait a sec. My doctor doesn't
that one
want
weird trick.
That one weird trick.
Oh, that one weird trick.
That your doctor doesn't want you to know.
Yeah, that one.
That's the one.
Yeah, people hate her.
Yeah, people really hate her. She's spreading this one weird trick.
That's right. Doctors hate her.
Yeah, so that's nonsense.
Yeah.
That's it for this episode. Thanks for listening. All the relevant links will be posted in the show notes at brainstormblog.net. If you want to keep up to date with the show, come on over and like us on Facebook at facebook.com/brainstormpodcast, or follow us on Twitter at brainstormpod. This show was recorded in Roman Empire Studios. To listen to the rest of this recording session, keep an eye on our Patreon feed by becoming a patron. As soon as we get one, I'll be posting ad-free episodes, giving a shout out in the next episode, and eventually I'll be producing bonus content. So, if you want to support the show, head on over to patreon.com/brainstormpodcast and give $1 an episode. Or if that's too much, then go and give us a rating and write a review on iTunes or Stitcher. We still have a free shirt up for grabs for the first person to rate us and give us a review on Stitcher. Or if you just want to grab some gear, you can go on cafepress.com/brainstormpodcastgear, or just go to our website and click on the Cafe Press link. No podcast shout out this week. I've been too busy to dig up the details, even on one of my favorites. The next episode should have one. Thanks for listening and have a good one.
Our memories are malleable, subject to be altered by the passage of time and other factors that contribute to us changing our minds. And if you think that I'm lying, go and study up on neuroscience. See why your reliance on our witness claims is not guidance. So when people say they saw a ghost or UFO, apply a skeptical tone and see how conversations go. What if I told you you're practically unbalanced? Opinions are corrupted because you're factually challenged. What's worse is that you hardly ever seem to care about the sources of your information when you share. They say that I'm not fair because I scrutinize and brutalize and label every foolish notion just a pack of stupid lies. But if you want to hear a sorry, I apologize. I wouldn't hold my breath because you'll be waiting for a long time. What if I told you none of the things you say expose truth? It's quite the opposite, homie, they just expose you. Your paranoia informs you. What you think is true is only the reflection of the fear, and you don't have a clue. What if I told you you're not a truth seeker?
Not too bad. Gumby's not here with you. I'm not going to get it.
Well, I guess I know it off the top of my head. Well, why look it up? But I can just remember it.
They're screwing people that
do the drunken atheist commentary on it. Just have a bunch of atheists get drunk and just start mocking it and ridiculing it. It'd be pretty funny.
It's a lair.
When you get a group of pickup artists together, they gather in their lair. It's kind of like disturbing and funny at the same time.
Or what do they do in their lair?
Well,
just compare stories.
Well, that's just it. They just hang
What's
out.
That movie,
they just hang out and
Kiss the Girls with Morgan Freeman.
This is an opinion-based podcast. Each person on the podcast is responsible for their own opinions, and those opinions don't necessarily reflect the views of the rest of the panel. Any guests or anyone associated with the people on the podcast, such as spouses, partners, children, other family members, friends, or employers. No one person speaks for the podcast with the possible exception of Corey, and he doesn't speak for anyone else on the show. The Brainstorm podcast does not represent the views of our sponsors.